For the moms out there, you know how hard it can be to physically and mentally prepare oneself for a new child. For mothers who face other health care and low-income challenges, it can be even more difficult. But as 6 News' Marla Lundak reports, the legislature is seeking to offer more support for mother and child.
A recent March of Dimes report shows that in 2022 in Nebraska, 11.3% of babies were born preterm. That number is higher than the national average and is the highest rate Nebraska has ever seen. And when it comes to mothers of color, the preterm birth rate is even higher. But State Senator George Dungan of Lincoln wants to address issues like these.
No matter where you fall on the political spectrum, it seemed like one of the things that everyone can agree on is healthy moms and healthy babies.
He's introduced a bill that will enhance prenatal services for at-risk mothers on Medicaid. While Nebraska's program is robust, he says it's time to do more to tackle adverse birth outcomes.
There are certain things that we know are integral in helping those moms and raising birth weights that are not currently able to be billed for.
If passed, Nebraska would adopt the Prenatal Plus program. Dungan says states like Colorado have seen great success with the program because it doesn't just address the medical side of pregnancy, but also the socioeconomic side too.
It's also about making sure that you have access to mental health care. It's about making sure you have access to substance use disorder treatment, smoking cessation. A big one is dietitians or nutrition counseling. And that you have somebody that can do case management for you, who sees you throughout the entire pendency of your pregnancy to make sure that you have consistent services.
Doctors with decades of experience working with mothers and babies support the program too.
Prenatal Plus doesn't overcomplicate things. It simply allows doctors to identify high-risk pregnancies and then provides extra care for those women. In that way, Prenatal Plus is just common sense.
Intervention early in pregnancy with the Prenatal Plus program to address lifestyle, behavioral, and non-medical aspects of an at-risk mother's life have been shown effective in Colorado and California.
The bill made it out of committee and will advance to the legislative floor. On your side in Omaha, Marla Lundak, 6 News.
Originally, the bill sought to offer services on those with Medicaid and those in children's health insurance programs, as well as to offer postpartum services for mothers. An amendment to the bill limited the program to Medicaid users and prenatal care. For more information on this Prenatal Plus program, you can get that at WOWT.com.